Kenyans queued to vote on August the 8th last year. The country divided politically and ethnically. The memory of 2007, when more than 1,000 were killed in election violence, always present. The 2017 poll pitted long-term opposition leader Raila Odinga against the incumbent, President Uhuru Kenyatta, who won again, with a little help from Cambridge Analytica.
The Kenyatta campaign, which we ran in 2013 and 2017 for Kenyatta. And then we'd write all the speeches and we'd stage the whole thing. So just about every element of his campaign.
I think that's the next step of research.
Robert Mathuri is studying the impact of social media during the campaign.
The problem here would be fake news.
Yes.
Or disinformation.
Negative ads were spread on Facebook and other platforms by advocates for both main parties, but most attacked Raila Odinga, Kenyatta's opponent. Kenyans were micro-targeted with specific messages, mainly by WhatsApp. Jubilee, Kenyatta's party, has not said that this was the expertise for which they contracted Cambridge Analytica, but it is a tactic in which the company specializes.
Most of the people that we've asked in a survey that we've just concluded say they hadn't given any form of consent and they didn't have previous relationships with these political aspirants that were asking them to come and vote for them.
So where could that data have been mined from?
Right now, our hypothesis is that there was data from different government registries. So there's the Register of Person holds data on people. The IEBC holds data.
That's the Election Commission.
Exactly, holds data on voting. The telecoms holds data on subscribers, the numbers, for instance. The messages were very specific, identifying you by name, by where your county is, where your constituency, your ward, and asking you to come and vote on a particular day for a particular person in your exact polling station.
None of which is illegal, because there is no data protection law in Kenya. Nairobi's iHub. Up to 8 million Kenyans are on Facebook and even more on WhatsApp. Out of an electorate of nearly 20 million, political messages spread quickly.
WhatsApp is perhaps the most powerful social media tool in Kenya. And what people would typically do is like, oh, if I like this, or if it agrees with me, or I want to share it to my many 17, 18 different groups, I just send it to all of them and say, as received. Then I don't have to take responsibility for it. And then there's also a whole lot of people, our parents and our grandparents, who are also on WhatsApp, and they believe if it's out there, then it's true.
Before the vote, an apocalyptic attack ad called The Real Raila appeared at the top of internet searches in Kenya, alongside one called Uhuru for Us. It wasn't clear who had made them, nor who had paid for their search engine prominence.
The Real Raila website and the Uhuru for Us website share the same Google Analytics tracking code. And this is also a code that is shared with Harris Media, LLC.
Harris Media, based in Texas, is the publicist of choice for the Israeli President Benjamin Netanyahu and right-wing US causes. They haven't said that they worked for the Kenyatta campaign. And Kenyan law has no requirement to reveal who paid for political advertising.
That's a legal loophole that exists primarily because of the state of technology in the country and the state of the conversation about technology in the country. There should be some kind of qualms about taking advantage of that kind of a loophole for profit, and especially in a fragile democracy in a fragile context.
More than 50 people were killed in post-election violence. In the end, the poll was annulled by the Supreme Court because of problems in the count. The opposition boycotted the rerun. In the last 3 weeks, the old foes, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, shook hands, lowering the political temperature. Everything's back to normal now, but Kenyans are already dreading the next election season, wondering what kind of dirty digital campaign their leaders will dream up, and with whose help. Yesterday, I sat down with the opposition leader, Raila Odinga, and I asked him what impact he thought Cambridge Analytica, Harris Media and these kinds of digital techniques had on the Kenyan election.
We were probably one of the first guinea pigs in this experiment in Kenya. In 2013, we were new to this kind of thing, and we really didn't know how to deal with it. But then we saw them again come back in 2016, and this time I think they had perfected the art of manipulating data, because all of a sudden we saw on the screens, television screens, some very strange adverts, which people didn't even know their source, where they were coming from. And then on the Facebook page, if you ever opened the Kenyan Facebook page, you were immediately introduced to those negative campaign. Who is Raila Odinga? Or the real Raila Odinga?
And the real Raila Odinga in those ads was a very evil man.
Very, very evil man. The devil incarnate.
But that wasn't Cambridge Analytica, that was this company Harris Media. What did you manage to find out about Harris Media?
We really don't know the difference between Harris Media and Cambridge Analytica, because we think they're working for the same client, that there's some kind of relationship between them. We've not established exactly the difference. But the net result is that this was a very negative campaign.
What difference do you think the prevalence of social media in Kenya made to the negative campaigning? Because in Kenya we've seen a massive increase in social media use in the last 5 years or so, certainly since the last election.
Yes, Kenya, I think, is leading the continent in terms of penetration, social media penetration, use of social media. And I think they've just found the right environment here that they needed, sufficient raw materials for this kind of propaganda. And I'm also very disappointed that Facebook agreed to cooperate in this very clandestine enterprise. I have been very disappointed, and we are actually contemplating legal action against the Facebook.
Here in Kenya?
We will do it outside Kenya.
Do it outside Kenya? How will that work?
So we will have lawyers from Kenya and also from outside Kenya dealing with this matter.
What about Cambridge Analytica themselves? Would you consider taking legal action against them?
Certainly.
Here in Kenya, there are no laws which stop political parties or anybody else for that matter from mining people's data. Surely the problem is that the law in Kenya is not adequate.
There I agree with you, certainly, that there's a gap in terms of legal infrastructure in the country. And this is also a lesson to our legislators, that that loophole needs to be closed.
Some people would say that you also had access to data illegally, because your party was also micro-targeting voters, and that actually you're just complaining about this because the opposition's propagandists were better than your propagandists.
This is not true. You need to understand that we did campaign under very difficult circumstances here. First, you need to know that our own consultants, the Aristotle group of companies, the officials here, 2 of them, were arrested and deported from this country without any reason being given at all.
What is it about Kenya which makes it particularly vulnerable to this kind of campaigning and these kind of consultants who are working, as we've seen in America and in Nigeria and various places?
Certainly very vulnerable, and the introduction of this system, which is being brought by the Cambridge Analytica, itself portend very badly for electoral democracy in the continent. And I don't think that is not a danger for Africa. It's a danger universally. If this development is allowed to succeed, then there will be no point in having elections, because it is not going to be the will of the people. The people are going to be turned like robots, so that they vote in accordance with how they are manipulated to vote. That, in my view, is not the meaning or the essence of democracy.
Well, we put those allegations by Mr. Odinga to Facebook, who said, "We categorically deny allegations of political cooperation with one party over another in the presidential elections, or support for Facebook campaigns by Cambridge Analytica in the 2017 Kenyan election." It should also be said that just before the vote, Facebook very interestingly put up on their site some tools which Kenyan voters could use to try and distinguish between fake news and the real thing. So it's quite clear that Facebook were very aware that this was a problem in the Kenyan elections, and they did try and do something to counter it just before the vote.
Well, Lindsay, you focused very much on Kenya in your reports tonight, but are you sensing that there is deep unease about Cambridge Analytica in other African countries?
Yes, I think so. They were involved in Nigeria, allegedly for Goodluck Jonathan, who was the last president, and there was an attack ad put out against President Buhari, the now President Buhari, so it should be said that this didn't work. But it was a similar, very apocalyptic kind of ad that we saw in the real Raila. And I think that one of the problems in Nigeria, Kenya, and in many other African countries is that there really is no legal framework for dealing with this, because the technology has sped far ahead of the law. And Africa people are on the internet a lot. People send money by internet. People use it all the time. It's tremendously important in people's everyday lives. And unless there are new data protection laws coming in, as well as campaign transparency, these kind of issues are only going to grow.